Everyone, if you're just coming in, grab a seat. Welcome to Creative Mornings. I'm going to invite you to stand and face our way because, friends, for those of you who want to, we're going to sing together. Yay! That's right. My name's Casper. We have Alexa over here, and we have Kristen, which is wonderful. And some of you love to sing. Some of you grew up singing. Karaoke is your thing, which is awesome. Some of you are like, singing is hell. This is the worst thing for me ever. I wish I had known about this. I would not have come. Either way, that is so fine. If you want to sing, we'd love to hear you. If you don't want to sing, absolutely fine. But I'm going to encourage you just to turn to the person next to you, look them in the eyes, and say, I can't wait to hear you sing. I can't wait to hear you sing. And then say it to yourself. I can't wait to hear me sing. I can't wait to hear me sing. Now, we are not wearing masks while we're teaching, but we're going to ask you to keep them on while we sing. And it's a very simple song. We're going to teach it by call and response. If you need the words, they're in front of you. If you like to hum, that's also fine. It's a wonderful folk song by David Dodson, who's up in Maine, I believe, and it's called The Farthest Field, and it's very on theme. So if you're more the analytical kind, you can just look for how this relates to the theme of spirituality. Okay, so we'll teach the chorus first. Help me with the note. All right, it goes like that. We'll sing it through once, the chorus, and then we'll teach it call and response. Walk with me and we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we wend our way up to the farthest field. That feels lower than when we practiced.
Oh, go higher.
I like low.
No, go, I'm singing an octave higher than you.
All right, walk with me, and we will see. Let's stay where we were. Yeah. Okay, so it goes like this. We'll sing one line, and we'll invite you to sing it back to us. Walk with me, and we will see. Let's just sing that. Walk with me, and we will see. So that sounds like a funeral. That's what we're not gonna do. Okay, let's try that one more time. Walk with me and we will see. Beautiful. All right, second half of that line goes like this. The mystery revealed. Sing that back to us. The mystery revealed. Let's put those two together. Walk with me and we will see the mystery revealed. One more time. Walk with me and we will see the mystery revealed. And the mystery is mysterious, so just hold on to it before that S comes in. One more time. Walk with me and we will see the mystery revealed. Second line, same tune, different words. When one day we wend our way up to the farthest field. When one day we wend our way up to the farthest field. All right, let's put those two together. Walk with me and we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we wend our way up to the farthest field. Okay, now I know you're looking at the words. Put the words away and try and remember if you know those words. I know, your brain does magical things. Here we go. Walk with me and we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we wend our way up to the farthest field. You sound fabulous. So good, right? Okay, so we've nailed the chorus. The best bit about the rest of the song is half of it is call and response. And the other half, Kristen and Alexa will help you. So let's sing just the first verse, and you'll see how it goes. It starts, there is a land. That's right. Okay, great. All right. There is a land high on a hill where I am going. There is a voice that calls to me. Really is a little low. Let's do a little higher. Yeah. There is a land. Let's do it. High on a hill, where I am going, there is a voice that calls to me. The air is sweet. The grass is wave. The wind is blowing away up in the farthest field. That's the whole verse. I know, they were so fast. So fast. Oh, Alexa's introducing swaying. We do feel,
Don't be shy. We can sway here.
We can sway. That's lovely.
Hold it here, yeah.
If you don't want to sway, Kristen will be
sway,
staying
you
still.
cannot
Thank you,
sing,
Kristen. I love it. All right. Yeah, no swayed by swaying, exactly. All right, so let's sing just that first verse, or you want to just dive in? Let's dive in. You feel confident? The good thing is there's 4 verses, so we just keep going.
Also, if you're wearing a mask and you don't want to sing, we won't know.
It's true. It's true. All right, let's do it. There is up there, yeah. All right. Yeah. There is a land high on a hill, where I am going, there is a voice that calls to me. The air is sweet. The grass is wave. The wind is blowing away up in the farthest field. Chorus. Whoa, walk with me and we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we wend our way up to the farthest field, the sun will rise. The sun will set. Across the mountains, and we will live in beauty there. The fragrant flowers, the days and hours will not be counted, and peaceful songs will fill the air. Whoa. Walk with me and we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we wend our way up to the farthest field, I know one day I'll leave my home here in the valley and climb up to that field so fair. And when I'm called and counted in the final tally, I know that I will see you there. Whoa. Walk with me and we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we wend our way up to the farthest field, oh my dear friends, I truly love to hear your voices lifted up in radiant song all through the years. We all have made our separate choices. We've ended here where we belong. Whoa. Walk with me and we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we wend our way up to the farthest field. Repeat the chorus one more time. Walk with me and we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we wend our way up to the farthest field. Beautiful.
Good morning, everyone. How fun was that? Shout out to Casper and Kristen and Alexa. Nothing like getting you into your body than singing. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Tina Roth-Eisenberg. I'm the founder and your New York City host of Creative Mornings. And I'm welcoming you today from the ancestral land of the Lenape people and the invisible dog in Brooklyn. And I'm so happy you're all here in person, but also I want to welcome everyone who's on the live stream. I'm just so happy you're making time for this today. I want to thank Lucien, who showed up for a hot second with his sunglasses on because it was entirely too early for him, and he just left and said, I'm going back to bed. But Lucien is the host today. He runs this beautiful building called The Invisible Dog. He's so extremely generous for hosting us. I'm just so grateful. And if you're not familiar what The Invisible Dog is, it's an art center. This is an event space, an exhibition space. You can rent a space. There's going to be exhibitions in September, October, and there's artist studios above here, really cool, and also Creative Mornings HQ works from the 3rd floor. And there's a cool thing this weekend, the Fat Market. If you're into designy, emerging designer stuff, you should come and check it out. So, every month at Creative Mornings, we read the manifesto. It is a good reminder for everyone why we do what we do and really shines a light on our values. And we always pick someone special from our community to do us the favor to read it. And this month, it's our very own AV volunteer, Matt Chavez. Matthew. I'm so happy to introduce Matthew. He's a multi-talented artist and creates participatory public installations, and I have a feeling a lot of you have actually interacted with one in particular that is created. Matthew is actually the creator of Subway Therapy, the Post-it note installation. So Matthew makes sure that we sound good and that you on the live stream can hear us. So I want you to give, and if it wasn't for volunteers like Matthew, we just couldn't do this. So I want you to give a big round of applause for Matthew.
Hi, everyone. Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We're here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections, in learning from others, in hugs and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome.
Look at him, and he's switching out mics. Thank you, Matthew. Raise your hand if this is your first ever Creative Mornings, because I want to give you an extra warm welcome. I'm so happy you found us. Actually, someone found us. I think where's the lady that just said hi to me that lives across the street? There she is. She's just like, what is this? And she's here. It's wonderful. So first-timers often don't realize that we're not just happening in New York, but we're actually happening around the world in 67 countries, in 224 cities all around the world every month. And if you've been to chapters in other cities, can you raise your hand? Oh, wow. If you think it's the furthest away, you're the one who've gone to furthest away, keep raising your hand. Sao Paulo. Melbourne? Melbourne? Wow, that's really far. Back there? Florence? Wow, this is amazing. And I want to point out someone I just met, Teresa. Can you stand up for a second? Teresa, she's from Madrid. She goes to the Madrid chapter, and she and her husband, right? Yeah. I just met them outside. They were like the really nicely dressed people, so I went up to him. I was like, this is nice. They travel all over the world and go to the chapters. You've been to Auckland, Rome, Madrid, and Sweden. Isn't that cool? So next time you're traveling, try to figure out if there's a Creative Mornings happening. You're going to always email the host on the site and say like, hey. Anyway, Teresa, thank you for being here. And speaking of chapters really far away, every month I hope that I don't have to show this slide anymore, but my heart goes out to our chapters in Ukraine. We have a chapter in Odessa, Kyiv, and Lviv, and I'm just so heartbroken about what they're going through, and I just want to send them love. Did you enjoy a coffee and baked goods when you got here? If you did, breakfast is made possible by our local partner, and that is Harvest. Just like us, they're a New York City-based company. They are our favorite time tracking tool. And if you're not familiar with Harvest's ultimate guide to time management, I want to point it out to you. We're going to share it in the follow-up email. It's a really useful tool. And I want to thank Harvest for being our local partner. And then, did you ever watch talks online? We have over 10,000 talks online. I see some heads nodding. That's cool. Do you ever go to a field trip that's like our peer-to-peer learning university? Oh, I see somebody doing the wave. That's amazing. All these things need manpower, and we need to support our hosts, and et cetera, and all costs money. And the reason why we're able to do this and keep these events free is because we have an extremely generous global partner, MailChimp, who has been supporting us. Anyone who's been here for a long time, they're probably like, Tina must be dreaming of MailChimp. Tina must have a tattoo, like a monkey tattooed at this point on my body. MailChimp has been supporting us since we were 4 months old. Continuously, generously, unwavering support. I'm so grateful. They started out as a newsletter company. Now they're a full-fledged marketing platform. And I want to point out that their latest benchmark report, you can read about the power of referrals. Anyone who runs a business knows that referrals are the best kind of business tool. It's going to be in the follow-up email. Give it a peek. This GIF is in honor of Alexa. Alexa is the person that was just singing. She runs our field trips, and during a Zoom call, which I must say was one of the highlights of my career, this week we played 2 lies and a truth, and she revealed that she can make peacock sounds, and she did. And it was the most impressive thing I've ever heard, so Alexa, this GIF is for you. We're going to play Stand Up If right now, my favorite thing. My favorite game. If you don't want to participate, that's totally cool. But if you do, I'm going to project statements to the screen. And if they apply to you, please stand up and please be honest. Okay. Stand up if today's topic, spirituality, is why you're here. Wow. That's very cool. Stand up if you're just here to make friends. Nah, stand up if you're just here for free coffee and baked goods. No judgment, it's totally cool if that's the case. Or stand up if you went to a place of worship growing up on a regular basis. Wow, that's cool. Stand up if a place of worship is still part of your life. Wow. Ooh, I see some hesitation here. Stand up if you're searching for a community that nourishes your spirit. Ooh. Oh, wow. Hey, Casper, this is your audience. Stand up if Creative Mornings has ever been that place for you. Oh, I'm going to cry. Okay, thank you for playing along. All right. In case you don't know, but my favorite thing is as the RSVPs roll in, I'm like a crazy person. I have it bookmarked where I can see who's RSVP'd, because there's a button there that you can see who signed up. And then I scroll through all your beautiful photos, and then I click through the profiles, and I want to point a few people out. So Elijah, I don't know if Elijah is here. Sometimes something comes up. If you're not here, that's okay. But anyway, he has a really beautiful smile, and I clicked through, and I learned that he's a writer, architect, and graphic designer, and runs writing workshops called Pretty Mouth. It's really cool. Also, there's Tim. His profile really drew me. Tim, stand up for a second. Tim offers private jump roping lessons. His company, Punk Rope, offers one of the only jump rope instructor certifications. It's so cool. In the world. And a side hustle, he DJs and hosts music trivia. It's people like Tim that just make browsing the profiles really, really fun. But if you're someone who's never really gave it any attention and you're a croissant or a bagel, I just must tell you, the likelihood of me or anyone else clicking on it is really low. So maybe when you go home, maybe put a photo up and a few facts about yourself. Okay, I'll move on. This month's theme is spirituality. We have a global theme at Creative Mornings where the chapters around the world pick a speaker, and then all these talks go into, in sort of one place on the website where you can watch all these talks. And the theme was chosen by the Chidat chapter, and it was illustrated by Bayan Yassien. And I am so excited. It's my favorite thing in the world when I can actually introduce a friend to come on stage. And Casper is a dear friend of mine. And a new friend. We actually met during the pandemic, thanks to Twitter and the internet. And I love the internet so much. And so Casper and I would go for walks. And we would chat. And he's a very curious person. And he would ask me all these questions about Creative Mornings. And every now and then, he would just chuckle. And this happened multiple times, and he would just go, Tina, you know Creative Mornings is church. And I was like, I know. So Casper is the author of a book called The Power of Ritual and the co-founder of the Nearness project. It's a project that aims to help people deepen their spiritual lives. Casper previously co-created the hit podcast, okay, Harry Potter fans, he has a podcast about Harry Potter and the Sacred Text. Does anyone know it? Has anyone listened to it? Ooh, there's arms going up. He also ran, or still runs, I'm not sure, the soul-centered R&D agency Sacred Design Labs, and he co-authored a very influential paper called How We Gather. Casper holds a master's in public policy and divinity from Harvard University. Please give him a really big round of applause.
Thank you so much, Tina. Hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be at Creative Mornings. I've long been a fan, and I'm so thrilled and a little bit nervous, honestly, when Tina asked me. So thank you, Tina, for all of your leadership, and thank you to all the volunteers at the coffee stand and outside, and sound and tech, and Kyle especially, for making this possible. We're so grateful. So what I want to share with you today is a little bit about my story, because I did not grow up in any way really thinking about spirituality. I did not attend a religious house of worship as a child. So I want to tell you a little bit about how I ended up working in this space, and then to share both how I think about what spirituality is, and then what it might ask of us. So I hope it will leave you with some thoughts to think and questions to ponder. But who am I? Also, these illustrations were done by my sister, and so suddenly that feels especially lovely. So thanks, Rosa, for your lovely little illustrations. I grew up in a household in England, you can probably hear from my accent, but my parents are both Dutch. And I think next to Denmark, Holland is the most secular country in the world. But it was a household that was filled with ritual, birthdays being very important. What clues can we find in this picture? Well, I'm wearing a crown, because on your birthday, you got to wear a birthday crown. There are, of course, candles for the appropriate number of years at the age that we were. You probably can't quite see it, but there are little Dutch flags on the corner of my chair. Your birthday chair was always decorated with streamers and flags. But of course, most importantly, there were present some very angry sisters who were very frustrated that it was not their birthday. So that's my other sister, Fleur. So, there were special days in the calendar, and that wasn't just true in our home, it was also true in the school that I went to. Thank you, Kristen. Did anyone grow up or know of the Waldorf school system? Steiner schools? Yes, it's Creative Mornings, so there are going to be a few Waldorf kids. Well, I am one of you, and so what's happening here is that it's May Day, the 1st of May, and so I'm dancing around a maypole, which is, there's lovely streamers, they're all tied to a big pole, and you dance around it to music, and you get to wear a flower crown, which as a little gay child, I was particularly excited about. But the entire calendar was filled with these kind of days. So at midsummer, there was always a Shakespeare production at school, and then a big bonfire. And the class that graduated would stay until the very end of the bonfire. I mean, it was as tall as this ceiling, if not taller. They would wait until the entire fire had burnt down, and then they would jump over it. On Christmas Eve, we would go and sing to the local at the local farm, and we would sing to the cattle and the pigs and even the chickens and the bees. We would sing Christmas carols to them. And so the entire kind of calendar was filled with these ritual moments. And the older I get, the more I realize how those early moments of community and of ritual really shaped how I understand spirituality. As a young person, I got more and more involved in activism, especially around climate change. I was very lucky enough to be part of a trip to the Arctic with kind of international youth. Here we are, more flags for those of you who can see them. And I became really involved in mobilizing young people, especially around the UN climate negotiations. And for those of you who have been an activist or still are, does the word burnout mean anything to you? Yes, well, it happened to me too. And my experience of burnout was less that I was tired, although of course that was true. It was more that the more I learned about the challenge I was trying to fix was so at odds with what I felt the capacity to influence. And that gulf between what I knew had to change and what I felt I was able to do just broke my heart. And I was kind of forced into an introspection to realize that, well, maybe it's not all on my shoulders. And for those of you who are 21, it's not all on your shoulders. But that feeling of it's not all up to me and it's not all my fault were really, really big themes as I was a young person growing into awareness. And so I ended up as a gay atheist going to divinity school, which sounds like the beginning of a joke and a punchline. But it was a surprise to me and those who loved me, because I did not, talk about God. I was very suspicious of religious hierarchy. Everything. I was like, why would I go to divinity school? But it was the place in which I felt able to explore the kind of questions I was interested in. How do we build community? How do we make meaning? How do we forgive what is unforgivable and stay hopeful in moments of hopelessness? And those were the kind of questions that we got to explore together. And so as Tina mentioned, my work over the last decade has really been at this intersection of the sacred and the secular, of tradition and innovation. And I believe that as human beings, we are meaning-making creatures who need each other, and that religion is the traditional offering that has helped us stay in relationship to one another and the things that matter most. Now, whether you're religious now or not, I hope that doesn't matter, because I really think about spirituality as something that we all have to some extent in some way. So the context for my going to divinity school was a curious one. This graph, you don't need to see the exact axes, but what you do need to see is that more people were religious, now they are less religious. And this is in the United States. So for those of you watching from abroad, forgive me for the parochial context, but this is certainly the case in the United States and Europe, of course, even more so markedly. And so we're in the midst of one of the most drastic landscape changes in how people are in relationship with each other and the things that matter most. At this point, for the first time in recorded history in the United States, there are fewer than 50% of people connected to a local congregation. So even though people still maybe believe in God or feel spiritual, they are no longer institutionally affiliated in the way that they were. So that's kind of the background for this conversation. So as we think about spirituality, the first question I have for you is, what does it mean? Usually we put it in direct opposition to religion, right? We think of religion as something that's institutional, and we think of spirituality as something that's individual. Does that make sense? Right, we think about the kind of institutional versus the individual. But I want to offer that we can do better than this. Because my worry, and this is what I want to bring to you this morning, is that when we think about spirituality purely for ourselves, that it starts to slide into something that looks a lot like consumption. That it looks like something that's just there to make us feel better. That's just there to alleviate our worries or make us maybe momentarily more calm. And I think spirituality is more robust than that it asks more of us, that it has more to offer for us, but that it's a little bit more muscular, shall I say, than perhaps the ooey-wooey kind of soft, easy sound bath world in which so many of us now live. Does that make sense? Okay, we recognize that image of spirituality. Again, I don't want to say that that's not right. I want to say that it's incomplete, that there's more to it. So I want to offer you a three-part definition that helps me think about what spirituality is, and then share what it might ask of us. So the first element of spirituality, for me, is the experience of belonging. It's the relationships that we have, not just to those who are near and dear to us, but also to a wider community, to a place, a landscape, and even a history. Those different elements of belonging help us feel like we are at home in the world. And when lockdowns happened, even though we kind of came to our most near and dear, those extra circles of connections, the people that you might run into at a CreativeMornings event, for example, were taken away from us, and we felt relationally poor for it. So when we think about belonging, I want you to think about it in layers. Those who are closest to us, the people that we know, maybe friends that we would see at a friend's party, and even people that you walk next to on the street who you don't know, but there's a sense of being part of a place, a neighborhood. So when we think about belonging, I also love these little cocktails. Come on, how cute are they? Thank you. Yes. When we think about belonging, it's this experience of knowing and being known, and loving and being loved. And there's a two-part nature to that. It's us going out and claiming people, but it's also the experience of them claiming us. Right? It's not just something that we get to give, it's something that we're asked to participate in. And that's not always fun, spoiler alert. So often, I think in the culture, and at least in which I live, community is this like great word, and we all want community. Community is a shit show, okay? I hope Leah's not watching, but my neighbor upstairs in my building asked me to look after her cat. I'm a vegetarian and I don't like pets. I had to say yes because I'm her neighbor, and I resented her deeply for it, okay? Community is not fun some of the time, most of the time. It demands things of us, and we have to do it because we are in relationship to them. And ultimately, I am of course glad that I looked after Lumpy the cat, but it wasn't fun, okay? So let me stop there before I insult my dear neighbor Leah, who I really love and adore, and of course would look after her cat again. But it's that experience of giving relationship and being claimed by it. So number one is belonging. Number two is the experience of becoming. Now this is the process of becoming who we feel called to be. And I want to be really careful about how we think about this language, because it's so easy to think of this as kind of personal growth or personal development, of this never-ending kind of, you know, the graph always goes up into that right-hand side. Yes, right-hand side. But spoiler alert, we age and die, right? Becoming does not continue to rise. We don't get healthier and stronger and smarter and hotter, right? Life is not designed like that. And so when I think of becoming, for me, it's about the growth in the virtues that we might have, the growth in generosity and humility and love for others. And so this doesn't latch on to the kind of, do an extra 5 minutes of gratitude and you will be more spiritual and better. Like, fuck no. Excuse my French. But it's such an incomplete understanding of what the human journey is about. So becoming is the process of growing into the person we're called to be, and is far from linear. Finally, we've had belonging, becoming. For me, there's a really important experience of something beyond ourselves. Now, this is where language can really get in the way. For some people, the way to describe this sense of otherness is a traditional word like God. For others, it might feel like when you're out in nature and you're looking at the night sky and you just feel part of this enormous otherness that is the universe that we live in. There's something beyond ourselves and our importance and our immediate priorities that has a claim on us, that is part of who we are and we are part of it. And this beyondness, this sense of something bigger than ourselves, I think is ultimately vital to our sense of well-being. So I think about it as being part of something more, part of something bigger than ourselves. So as we think about spirituality, belonging, becoming, beyond, if that triptych can work for us this morning, what does that mean for our spiritual lives? Does it mean, okay, great, like I use a meditation app and like I do it most days, great. Yes, that's part of it, but I also think there's more. So what is asked of us? I think one of the biggest challenges goes back to this understanding of religion and spirituality. So often we think about our spirituality as about just ourselves, our individual lives. I mean, I'm using our, I mean my. This is how I have thought about it, and so I'm hoping you might recognize it too. When we think about our spirituality, it's so easy for it to just become about us. And so when we think about what we want to do, it's about what makes me happy. And what I want to offer to you is that our spirituality cannot be cut away from other people and the landscape that we're in. And so one of the most powerful reframes for me has been the word covenant. Now, covenant sits in direct opposition. Has anyone heard that word before, covenant? Yeah, okay, seeing about half of us. It was new to me. But usually it's put in contrast to the word contract. In a contract, I might sell you some oranges and you pay me a couple of dollars for it, right? There's an exchange, which is very helpful when we need to buy and sell things, or we need to interact with a plumber, or I'm selling you my freelance services. I am available. In a contract, that's very helpful. But a covenant asks something different. It's not about what we do together, but it's about how we are together. It's a commitment to being in relationship without knowing exactly what's coming or what we will do. Is anyone married? Yes, I too am married, 6 years. I love my husband. He doesn't have a cat, but sometimes the same vibe is true. But a marriage is a great example of a covenant. You're making a commitment. I didn't know what the hell was coming, but I made a promise. Now, not every marriage should last, right? That's not what I'm saying here. But I am saying when you're in a covenanted relationship, the first initial response to when something doesn't work, like a contract, is not just to leave. It's to stay in relationship in some way. And so when I think about our spirituality, what I'm hoping we can do is to be more intentional about the covenanted commitments we can make one another. So as we think about what covenants we might be in, maybe there is a relationship, right? A romantic relationship. That might be one covenant. Maybe there's an old group of friends that you've known since high school and you get away every year for a weekend together and you know that you will always keep that commitment. Or there's a co-founder, or there's someone else, maybe a neighbor, right? Where we're making covenantal commitments to each other that hold us in relationship. I think this is one of the most powerful spiritual technologies that would help us leave behind a little bit of that individualism and be more fruitfully in relationship. So ask that question, how will we be together? The second turn I hope that we can make is away from this theme of self-improvement, that spirituality is there to make us better, faster, stronger, whatever the Daft Punk song was telling us to do. But instead, the spiritual journey is not one of ascent, it's one of descent. It's one in which we give more of ourselves away through humility, through generosity, through service, through love. This is the path that the great sages of religious wisdom point us to. And again, it's not pretty. The people I encounter who have the most spiritual maturity, as you will, are the people I had never heard about before. It's the people who live lives of quiet dignity. My favorite friends that I've made in the last 10 years through my work are groups of Catholic nuns. Literally this weekend, I'm going to Missouri to sit on a panel with women in their 80s, who have lived 60 years of religious life, of life in community together. And I met these women at an event called Nuns and Nuns. So people who were religious nuns and people who were N-O-N-E-S, the sociological category of people who were not religious. So nuns and nuns. And we were sitting around the table, and honestly, I arrived thinking, I'm going to meet some nice old ladies who might give me their buildings, right? Like they're all frankly dying, and so maybe I'll get some nice property that we can build something cool with. Okay, I am a Slytherin, I'm just gonna own that, anyway. Ambition and cunning are useful skills when put to good work. Anyway, so I was sitting in this room with these wonderful women, and one of the millennials sitting next to me said, all I want is to transform my life in community to serve the world. And Nancy Schreck, this nun, was sitting opposite and said, yes. That is the religious life. And it was just this moment of realization that what these women had been living for decades was exactly the same yearning that I felt. They were just using very different language and in very different structures. And the way in which they have lived out that life is one, I think, of that element of service and generosity and humility. And it's something I think for those of us who are interested in spirituality, it's a place that I hope we can spend more time looking. And the question I ask myself for this is, what is worthy of our surrender? What is worthy of our devotion? So much at least in my life and in the culture that we live, is such a poor offering, actually, when we think about it in terms of what we give our lives to. And I think that sense of transformation in community for the service of others is a pretty good place to start. My final invitation that I feel from this word spirituality is to move away from the chaotic scroll. I feel like we have the doom scroll, but the chaos scroll has not been talked about enough. It's the movement from the Instagram to the YouTube to the Twitter. Like, it's the full service scroll. Anyone else familiar? Just me. Okay. To a life of ritual rhythm, a rhythm of life in which we are constantly reminded, oh yeah, this is not what it's about. This is what it's about. Oh yeah, that's not why I should be here. This is why I'm here. And that for me is what this sense of a ritual calendar is for, and to use the religious word, the liturgical calendar, is that there are celebrations, there are festivals, there are rituals, there are ceremonies, there are moments that constantly remind us of the things that are most important to us. And the power of engaging with tradition in one way or another is that we are asked things that we did not choose. Now again, as a queer person, fuck you, institutional religion, but also there's something there from which we can learn. I really, really passionately believe that if we only choose the things that we want, we will not be able to be formed to become the people that we want to be. Does that make sense? Okay. So, whom do we trust to form us, right? What communities, what gatherings, what places like Creative Mornings do we know will make us better, more generous, more creative, more loving? How do we let them form us and shape us? So, my invitation for you is to find some place, some community, some covenanted group that will help you do that, if this is of interest. And if you're like, I don't know one, help me. Well, hello. I feel the same way, and I realized at some point, oh, maybe it doesn't quite exist, and maybe we have to make it. Okay, let's try. So I'm creating a cooperative called the Nearness, where we will help each other do this as best we can, knowing that it won't be easy, knowing that it is necessary, and knowing that it could be really beautiful. And so we're launching in September, and if you're interested, I would love to meet you afterwards, or you can go to the nearness.coop and check it out and sign up for the newsletter where we'll share the announcement when we launch. The design of it is essentially to enter into a small group of other people who want to explore this same question in their mind and in their life, and to get together to become the people that we believe we are called to be. So I want to thank you, Tina, thank you, Creative Mornings, thank you all of you for reflecting with me this morning. I'm very grateful. Thank you. So Tina, I believe we have a little time for questions and reflections.
Anyone want to ask a question to Casper? Yep. Can you stand up, please?
Yeah, of course. Hi, Casper.
Hi, Sasha.
Hi, folks. So my curiosity is around the quality of both becoming and formation, and doing that in community or in a group, and what you have found or what you surmise supports that process of coming into relation with our calling.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sasha. Yeah. Sasha used my favorite word, which I didn't even say this morning. It goes to show. Formation, which is that process of becoming. How are we formed to become the people we want to be? And Sasha asked, essentially, what are the ingredients necessary? How does that relationship with others interact with formation of yourself? Is that right? This is, again, one of the vital elements for me about why spirituality is not a solo pursuit. I don't think we can become who we need to be by ourselves. I spent a good 2 years trying to figure out what are the metrics for spiritual growth? Like, how can you measure it? And the conclusion was, I don't think you can. Because self-reporting your own growth does not work. It's other people who see that you have become somebody different from who you were. I had a mentor sit me down when I was like 25. Her name was Charlotte Miller, amazing woman. She said, Casper, I'm going to coach you because you're never going to ask for help. And she was right. And like one of the joys in my life now is that, you know, years later, she was like, you have changed. Like, you've asked for help on this particular project. We're working together. And so I think so often it's only when we are loved and loving, known and knowing, that people are able to recognize exactly that kind of change in us. And so if we don't have those relationships, if we don't have that trust and that covenanted relationship, I don't think we can grow to become the people we want to be. Yeah, thank you, Sasha. Other folks. Okay, right at the back in red, and then maybe the person here with fabulous red hair or pink hair. Yeah.
Hi, Casper. Thank you so much. I'm Krista. Nice to meet you. I have a two-part question. First and foremost, what is, if you have one, your favorite ritual? And number two, what is currently giving you hope?
So what's my favorite ritual and what's currently giving me hope? Well, my favorite ritual at the moment, I live in Brooklyn, and I live in a one-bedroom apartment, which is great. And, you know, working at home with your partner, you learn a lot of things. You also don't have a lot of space for your own interior life, at least that's my experience. So I realized I could go to the roof at the end of the day, and no one would be there because it'd be kind of dark. And the, you know, the penthousey vibes, no one was out there. And so at the end of the day, I like to go and I literally go to the roof, I sing a little song, and I kind of talk out loud. My meditation has turned into more kind of like prayer, I think. I don't know who I'm talking to, but I'm talking at least to myself, and maybe that beyond that sense of otherness. And it's helped me enormously to just give a chapter between the end of the workday and the beginning of what I hope will be an evening. Sometimes that's at 8:30. You know, it's not a clean process, but for me that's become a really important rhythm at the end of the day. And then what gives me hope? Oh my gosh, I find that the bigger I look, like the bigger visual I look, the more hopeless I become, and the smaller I look, the more hopeful I become. And so I really love, I mean, seeing Creative Mornings. I mean, talk about a big view, actually. That map was freaking inspiring. But looking at specific communities. Part of my work is I get to visit groups, communities, projects that are happening. And when you sit down with people, for example, at Thread in Baltimore, which is one of my favorite organizations that exists, where they build friendships between usually whiter, wealthier, newer people to Baltimore, and kids that are likely to drop out of school, who are usually kids of color, poorer, and with less resources and support. And what's so cool is, like, yeah, amazing mentorship, education. Of course, kids are much more likely to graduate, go into college. But the other thing that they measure is the impact on the volunteers, who are usually less relationally rich, feel less meaning in their life. And what the impact on the volunteers is as important to them as the thriving of the kids. And it totally changes how the conversation happens, and those covenanted connections happen. And friendships emerge there across race, across class, in a way that are mutually beneficial. And so that sense of mutual and collective liberation is so inspiring to me, and it's so difficult, but when it works, it's just beautiful. So looking at specific small examples gives me hope. Thank you. Question over here, and then we'll.
Sorry, Casper, interrupting, because we have a question from the live stream.
Amazing.
It's 2022 over here. We're living in the future.
I'm catching up. Thank you, Kyle.
Dana in DC asks, I've burned out in the work of community building and participation. How do you approach this with your learnings from burning out in activism? Dana in DC asks, I've burned out in the work of community building and participation. How do you approach this with your learnings from burning out in activism?
Yeah, so burning out in community, what can we learn? Listen, we cannot fill others' cups if we are not being filled ourselves. And so one of the dangers in community work, and frankly spiritual leadership, is that we turn to the place that we're building and the place that we're serving to also be the place that serves us. That's not going to work for long. So we really need a place where we can just receive in order to be in a different role where we can just give, because otherwise it completely ruins us. Or frankly, we act out in ways that are dangerous for the community. That was one of the things we saw in the mapping of these kind of groups that we talked about in the report, How We Gather, that Tina mentioned. We were looking at secular communities that were doing kind of spiritual things. And one of the big places where we saw that was in fitness groups. So I looked a lot at CrossFit and SoulCycle, for example. And there were so many, I mean, I don't need to tell you why CrossFit is evangelical, right? That story tells itself. I mean, really, the more you look at it, the more it makes sense. One of my favorite lines was always, how do you know if someone goes to Harvard, is vegan, or does CrossFit? They tell you, right? It's that evangelical input. But what happened at CrossFit is that people who were leading these fitness groups saw themselves as fitness trainers. But what they were doing was also being the first person who people would call when their mother died, or they would turn to the CrossFit community when their dog needed looking after if they were going on vacation, or they were sick and they needed a ride to the hospital, or they had breast cancer and they needed to fundraise for their healthcare, which, by the way, America, that's not right. And so what would happen was there were really intense boundary violations that would happen from those community leaders who didn't know that they were offering community leadership in a much deeper way than just fitness. So for example, romantic partnerships between a trainer and a client, not a great idea. So all of which is to say, we need a place where we are fed, where our well is nurtured, as well as the place that we're nurturing. That would be my best offer.
Okay, one more question.
Let's go yellow dress, or no, back to pink hair. Forgive me. I'm going colors this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel bad for all of you. Sorry, but I'm Kate. Hi, that was wonderful. Thank you. I wonder if you have strategies, you must do, for squaring the apparently contradictory drives is the wrong word, towards humility and the need to stand up and grow a community, which in this day and age means kind of the opposite of humility. So how do you do that?
Let's ask a different question, because that's really hard. Yeah, it's so real. It's so real. And I love the fact that you use the word contradiction, because I think more than anything, spirituality is made up of paradox. And I think the more we can hold the paradox, probably the wiser we become. So, you know, my journey, I was given great privilege, great confidence, great stability. And so for me, what's really important is that journey to humility. There are other people whose lives have been shaped in totally different ways, where actually it's about claiming the fullness of who we are, about healing, about generating confidence, about really growing into the fullness of discovering who they are as an individual. So both of those things are totally true. I think in terms of thinking through humility and the kind of need for self-promotion in a capitalist economy that we live, yeah, welcome to my world. It's really hard. I think the best advice I can give is the best advice that I've received is like, don't do it on your own, because that's when it's likely to go wrong. And so if we have people who are like, hey, Casper, I saw you do that thing, didn't feel so great, that's when I can realize like, oh, okay, I need to do that differently. Or I didn't even think that that was something that could be hurtful or out of line with my values. Like so often I'm just not aware. And so having those close relationships of trust and honesty and integrity, I think is the only way that we can navigate that windy path. It's my best offering. Thank you. Friends, I think we've reached our time. Is that right? One more. Tina.
Okay, cool.
Hello.
Thank you so much. So I guess this would be, I mean, you can answer if you want. It might be a longer conversation, but how does spirituality inform morality, considering like spirituality in the sense that it's kind of something, you know, you decide the community you want, you decide the group you want around you, and obviously how does that transfer to morality? Like what if someone chooses a morality that infringes on yours and then you say, hey, stop that, that's wrong. But then are you saying their spirituality is wrong and then spirituality is actually objective? So I guess you said it's a paradox, but I want to see how you define that.
Wow, we really should have stopped 2 questions ago. Thank you for that. Let me think about that for a minute. I mean, this is the challenge of living somewhat in a postmodern understanding of morality even, because I think we would be hard-pressed to agree on what is right and wrong, frankly, in every situation. And so my best offering would be that our spirituality calls us to think not of ourselves first. And so if, you know, this is the golden rule, this is the kind of classic central wisdom of do unto others as they would, you know, as you would want them to do unto you. Now, apparently there's also a platinum rule, do unto others as they ask you to treat them. So there you go. Useful for BDSM relationships also. But it's Alexa is excited. All of which is to say, for me, the relationship between spirituality and morality is that our spirituality calls us to think of others before ourselves. And that to be as much a listener as a speaker in understanding what's right and wrong. I'm not able to stand here and say, certainly not like this religious text will tell us all the answers that we need. But, you know, having thought about text a lot whether it was Harry Potter or the Bible, I do think a text can help us pull us outside of ourselves and explore a perspective from someone who we are not. And so the spiritual practices like text study, like hearing other people's stories and sharing your own, like coming together in community and navigating a difficult question, that practice of spirituality helps us at least engage seriously with moral questions that I think when we're by ourselves, we can stick to an easy answer that maybe will betray us down the line. That's my best offer. One more. Fabulous.
All right, Casper. Oh, wow. Hello. Hey, Casper. Hopefully this is going to be like a good one to close on. So I read The Power of Ritual and loved it. So thank you for writing that. It also provided a beautiful book for me to read with a coworker. So we unpacked a lot together on a personal level in addition to professionally. So thank you. And one thing that you said in that I truly laughed out loud while reading it was you were talking about your husband, Sean, and how your calendar and all the meetings that you have on your calendar would give him hives. And I was like, wow, this is literally me and my boyfriend, because I have that crazy calendar as well, and he does not like to plan into the future. So my question was, how do you decide what to say yes to on your calendar?
When we met, I literally told him, if you don't have a Google Calendar, I don't think this is going to work. I mean, the guy was using a paper and pen to like what the, yes. Exactly. He also had a Hotmail account. It was a mess. He's now a functioning professional. It's great. No, it's a real tension in our relationship. Yeah, I have a propensity to schedule. I like certainty, I like planning, I like knowing where I'm going to be in 6 months. Turns out that doesn't leave a lot of room for spontaneity and joy in many, many ways, and that may be a conversation in our relationship that we navigate. The thing that I found is, I mean, tactically, schedule time for serendipity. So I just scheduled that weekend to be like, don't schedule anything, because then, you know, tactically. Philosophically, I think, again, this is part of why I love covenanted relationship, because I have to engage the thing that is not my way. I have to orient myself around someone else in a way that is not comfortable and, frankly, not desirable half the time, but which, if I were to die tomorrow, has been the most meaningful thing in my life. And I think that's what's so beautiful about spirituality and about this world of meaning and relationship, is that it is what life is about, ultimately. And if we don't have relationships and structures that pull us away from ourselves and to these things of ultimacy, what are we doing with our lives? So that's what I try to remember when we're arguing about scheduling. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Casper. Oh, can we give him another round of applause? All right, before I let you all go, I want to say a thank you to our volunteers, without whom we could never run these events. I want to thank Cece, Eduardo, Emily, Leah, Rachel, Alicia, Megan, and my dog, Bo. She's security. Oh, wait, the fireworks didn't go off. There we go. I also want to thank, normally Connie's here, she's not, but she videotapes our events. I just want to still give her a shout out because she's amazing. I also want to give a shout out to Ben, who's been recording our talks for years on end, who's just attending today, and where is he? Where's Ben? And who gave us AV support today, so thank you. And then there's something really special happening today. I grew up in Switzerland, and two of my best high school friends, who are the most extraordinary parents, had two extraordinary kids. And one of them is shooting the event today. Ella back there has been shooting the event. Ella is a complete rising star in Switzerland. She has been supporting herself since she was 16. She's about to turn 20. She lives the most unique Swiss life that I have known. She's remarkable. Her URL is ellamettler.com. If you need a photographer, she's so talented. She's so cool. Ella, thank you for shooting the event today. And as always, I want to leave you with a quote. Once upon a time, people were born into communities and had to find their individuality. Today, people are born individuals and have to find their communities. K-hole. Thank you for being here. Thank you to everyone on Livestream. We'll see you next month.